Hello and welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian,
And I'm Kyle.
and we're excited to have a very special guest on today.
Yes, our guest today has been the Union play-by-play broadcaster for the last 8 years. He's also a play-by-play broadcaster for ESPN, the New York Riptides, and he calls the U.S. Open tennis. And he's a graduate of the Indiana University. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Leno. Dave, how you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Jillian, for having me on. I'm very excited. We're all Union through and through. I'm fired up and I can't wait to get this started. So I'm delighted to join you both.
We're delighted to have you too. So before we get started, what are we wearing today?
All right. Well, I'm wearing my Jose Martinez MLS bootleg shirt. Probably the first of many I think I'm going to purchase. So it is awesome though. Quality work. Highly recommend.
And I'm wearing my, this is actually one of the first tops I got from you. This is like 2018. It was like just a warm-up top I got on the team's, at the team store, like one of our very first games we went to. Never wear it. It's a long sleeve and one of my favorite things to wear during the fall. So I thought that was appropriate.
Yep.
So
how about you, Dave?
What are you wearing?
Gosh, I'm wearing one of these polos here. It's probably from a couple of years ago. I just dug something up and, I don't wear this a lot. I think I wear it to a couple broadcasts, but I had to pull it out for a special podcast appearance with you two. So it only comes out a handful of times. So I kind of wear like the latest polos that come out. So happy to rekindle the magic here.
Nice. Looks good.
Definitely. And so before we get started, make sure to subscribe and follow us, and please interact. We are on Twitter at theoneteamweagreeon, and we're on Facebook and Instagram at the One Team We Agree On. And you can listen to us on Apple, Google, and Spotify, as well as YouTube. So please like and leave a comment. So Dave, we'll go ahead and get started here. So for those that might not know your background, they just know you as the voice of the Philadelphia Union, kind of give us a brief history of from college to now and ultimately how you got started and where you are in broadcasting.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first off, thank you both so much for having me, and hello to all the Union fans listening or watching this as well. I have a very versatile background, meaning I've called a number of sports. I was always that type of kid growing up that always wanted to be involved in sports. And I think when I got to like middle school to early high school age, I think it shifted from, maybe playing professionally, which I played everything, to wanting to do this as an announcer, to be a part of the sports industry. I remember my senior year of high school hosting the sports morning announcements. And we had a segment where people can watch, the high school students can watch in our big high school in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Council Rock High School South, the morning announcements during homeroom. And they would watch me do Leno's locker room. And I would be the sports guy. And I would say, oh, the bowling team is going to play Hatboro Horsham at 3:15 and then the basketball team lost last night to Plymouth Whitemarsh. And I go through the stats and I just got that bug. And I used to take a camera with me and go to soccer games in Council Rock or football games and be the public address announcer or shoot assemblies by myself, edit programs by myself. I did Toys for Tots, you name it. So I had that go-getter personality, guys, from a young age, very involved. Then that led me to wanting to look at colleges and I never went away. Growing up, I always went to a day camp in Bucks County for a number of years, and I wanted to go to a big school that had a big athletics program. And I got in very early to Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, in the Big Ten. And I went out there with my parents, and I fell in love with it. Had a very reputable journalism program. And right when I got on campus there in Bloomington, I didn't know anybody. Nobody from my high school went there. One kid from Council Rock North did, and we knew each other playing basketball together, but he was a business guy and I was a journalism guy, but I was very involved with student radio, student TV. I was actively calling, I think the first sport I ever called in Indiana was soccer, and the Indiana men's soccer program has won like 8 national titles, very historic. The Yeagleys, who are the Jerry Yeagley, the father, and now his son Todd Yeagley's their men's head coach, both from Pennsylvania. Also, the women's soccer team. I did a number of games. Student radio, also for the athletics department. And as time grew, I traveled my junior and senior year with the volleyball and softball teams at Indiana. We made a Sweet 16 for volleyball. I made an NCAA regional for softball. And that's where I first got my mini break on the Big Ten Network, which started when I was in college. And at 21 years old, my first ever national TV broadcast as a play-by-play announcer on TV was Indiana against Ohio State field hockey. 2 weeks later, Big Ten called me to do Indiana-Michigan men's soccer, like in prime time on a Saturday night with Richard Broad, a well-acclaimed coach, and also a scout, former scout in MLS. And those experiences really were the foundation of a lot of different sports, from doing public address announcing with the Trenton Titans of the ECHL, which is like AA hockey. That team's not even in existence. They were the AA affiliate of the Philadelphia Flyers. That was public address announcing, not doing play-by-play. Then getting in with ESPN at 2012, doing a lot of college basketball, which then led me to football, doing soccer, swimming, and diving. Also working with a company called Comcast Sports Southeast, doing volleyball, the Sun Belt Volleyball Championships at Western Kentucky University, and also at Troy University in Alabama. And many other things came during that time. I got in with the U.S. Open, doing U.S. Open tennis since 2013, doing Arena League football, but a league lower than the AFL called the PIFL, where I would be traveling around the country calling games through chicken wire. Still called some college soccer with ESPN a couple of times during that. I played soccer growing up, and I think around all of those experiences was getting national games with ESPN and other things I had coming my way. I got wind that the Union were looking for a voice of Bethlehem Steel FC, and in 2016, I got that job to be the inaugural voice of the Union's USL affiliate, where Bethlehem Steel, played their games at Lehigh University. And that role also allowed me to do pregame, halftime, and postgame on Philadelphia Union broadcasts with Marissa Pilla. And we had a ball, which then led me to filling in for JP on play-by-play, and over time doing more and more with the first team. So before I lose my voice, that's kind of the whole story.
That's interesting, because when I went back, I was looking as we were preparing show notes. I saw your long history of what you've covered. You covered, like you said, like the ECHL Trenton hockey team. You've done it all. And I guess my next question is, who's influenced you the most? Because from where you started to where you are now, who would you say are some of your mentors and influenced you?
Well, one of them, undoubtedly, is JP Della Cabra.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my voice is going. Working with JP has been so meaningful since I came onto the team in 2016, and just being part of the broadcast with him and Peter Pappas at the time, Tommy Smith, Marissa, Sebastian Letou, Shane and Williams, Tony, people who have filled in, Tony Miola on analysis, or Janusz Mihalik. But JP has been one of those guys with the Union, undoubtedly, that treated me with so much class and welcomed me in, and always would be that first phone call when he would not be able to make a game, a Union game, if he had to do a Fox game or the World Cup. I would be that guy to step in for him, and he taught me how to call the game to the Philadelphia Union audience, and historical stuff that I didn't know about the Union before that. So he's a big one. Another guy who comes to mind with the Union specifically is Kevin Casey, too. Kevin Casey's the public address announcer for the Union, amongst other places. Kevin's a day one Union guy, just like JP was. And Kevin I've known since interning. I interned all throughout college, working for free when I came home in the summers. And Kevin would always, keep track of my career, where I was going from doing Camden River Sharks baseball, where he was the PA announcer and I was the intern with the broadcast team, to seeing me do hockey in Trenton, like I mentioned, to jumpstart my career, and then other things. Kevin's been a guy that's known me and my family for a long time. He's another one. And then there's other, ESPN announcers and national announcers that I've talked to and had on Zoom broadcasts, like Kevin Harlan, who does CBS and TNT and Turner stuff, as well as just friends and colleagues locally that are in the same business that I am. Jason Lee of PHL 17, I was talking to recently, and he's a big fan advocate of what I do, and just like I am with him, amongst others. I looked up to locally in the Mark, just being from Philadelphia area, Mark Zuma for the Sixers I've talked to over time, had a lot of conversations with, also has, filled in on Union games in the past, really even before I got here up until when I first broke in. And Zoo's been great, got to know him over the years. Merrill Reese a little bit. I love Merrill. I've worked at his WBCB station, doing stuff through one of the minor league arena league football teams I was telling you about, the Trent Freedom, where I got to interact with Merrill, and I look up to him and Tom McCarthy. I don't know as much with the Phillies, but always admire his broadcast, how professional he calls a game, from baseball to the NFL to even college basketball. And I interned with Tim Saunders. Tim and I have lost touch a little bit over time, but I always tell people that work with him, tell Tim, if he remembers this little Dave Leno guy who interned with him at the Camden, he was doing baseball with me at the Camden River Sharks.
Oh, wow.
In addition to his Flyer stuff, but him and there's so many others nationally. Ian Eagle, I get to work with Andrew Catalan, who's with CBS, does the NFL. So there's so many people I could name drop, but there's a host of men and women that have given me opportunity to show what I can do, and I'm very appreciative of that.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about learning from, people, kind of picking up advice as you kind of go along your career. It was the same with me in coaching. You always kind of knew the people around your hometown and who've been in it. And so that's really cool. What would you say from when you started, what was the best piece of advice you ever got? And for somebody that maybe is listening now that, is in high school, says, hey, maybe this is something I want to do. What would be the best piece of advice you could give them?
Try to say yes to almost every opportunity, even if it's not the sport that you want to broadcast or if you want to cover, if you're a journalist. I mean, the first national televised game I did was field hockey. I didn't know anything about field hockey. It was Indiana, Ohio State, on the Big Ten Network. I went to the coach 3 weeks before that assignment, and I said to the coach at the time, Amy Robertson, I don't know much about field hockey, but I'm going to do a great job because I want to come to practices. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to other student athletes. If there's any advice you can give me, I want to be around, be seen, and I don't want people to think this is Dave's first time on A, national television, or B, calling a field hockey game. And me getting thrust into that situation, she gave me Olympic field hockey DVDs of how the announcers called in. I just put myself in what I would say was a very uncomfortable situation. And I would say to people, and I hate to use cliches, guys, even whether it's off air or on air, but like I wasn't afraid to fail in the situation because I knew I was so prepared for the game. It got me confident. That's why, like, people ask me, do I get nervous? And I would be lying if I said I didn't. Of course, there's something that's going on in my stomach that I'm excited, but I know how to channel those nerves when the red light goes on when I'm on live TV, whether it be local in Philly, nationally with ESPN or somebody else, or hosting a show to an audience, not even on TV, or being on a podcast forum, because I feel like we're amongst friends and we're talking. And when you're confident in your work, I feel like you just come across genuine, and that's the guy I am. The other piece of advice I say is, treat people with respect. And today I feel like, and I'm a young up and coming broadcaster, and I'll tell you, it's a little bit lost today. I think a lot of people don't know how to look someone in the eye or say hello and hold the door, like those mannerisms that our moms and dads and our grandparents taught us.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm probably sounding twice my age now, but it's kind of waning with the younger generation. And then I tell a lot of younger broadcasters, you treat everybody the same, whether it's the attendant in the press room, to the person you're doing the game with, to the producer, director, your statistician, somebody else in the press box, to the janitor downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody puts their pants on the same way, and you treat everybody the same. And people will know your true colors, seeing what you do when you're not on air or not doing your job as well. I like to think those traits are just been something that is instilled with me since I've been very little. I'm very fortunate that over time that I've grown in my career, or one thing, whether it's been timing, luck, I got a job because I applied for whatever, it just led me to kind of get to where I am, and obviously still have goals and aspirations as well.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's quite the impressive resume, covering all those different sports. So, I mean, you've clearly worked hard to get where you are, and I think Philadelphia is really fortunate to have such great broadcasters in our area. I mean, some of the names you mentioned too, they're just some of the best in the business for sure. And I think that's a huge part of enjoying the broadcast. You know, like when you listen to people like Merrill Reese and like Scott Fransky, I love listening to him on the Phillies
Yeah.
broadcast because it just conveys so much of, you know, the emotion of the game. And when I listen to you do it as well, you know,
Mhm.
definitely. So I
Oh, yeah.
think, you know, we in the Philadelphia area should all feel very fortunate to have such good broadcasters that we do.
Yes.
But yeah, that's tremendous. So yeah, that's great to hear like all that experience and great advice to people getting into it. So traveling to cover the team like you do, with other sports as well, you know, we want to touch on a few things. So what are the top 3 favorite cities to travel to and why?
Well, you got to remember, this is our first year traveling because from day one till now, we did all
Mm-hmm.
our road games from 6ABC in Philadelphia. And before
Mm-hmm.
that, when I first joined the team at the Comcast network on studios in Delaware Avenue. So we didn't travel, which was definitely, I thought, a deterrent. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
very grateful to be doing the games from a studio, in a beautiful studio at both situations at Comcast and at 6ABC. I really miss the 6ABC folks going in there where they do action news, and the beautiful studio they would give us with the set, the lights, the monitors. It was great. But I think you guys can understand, and this is across
Mhm.
all sports. I hate hearing that when teams won't travel their announcers. It's something that is to be said when you're broadcasting a game at the game, you know, where you
Mm-hmm.
Right.
hear the crowd, you can see everything that's going on. I can get into the minute details of seeing the subs warm up, seeing people's
Mm-hmm.
reactions just by looking at them versus what the camera is showing you. And I'm big on, especially now my role as the radio play-by-play guy at the Union, I'm big on description. And it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to
Mhm.
do a radio call watching a television monitor because again, you're
Mm-hmm.
only going off what the camera is. When I'm at the stadium, and I'll get to some of the favorite cities this year because now I am traveling with the team, which has been
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Um, it's cool to document that whole picture for the listening audience, as simple as, you know, our walk in the stadium and where the locker rooms are and how the team's coming out. Like I would never get that if I didn't travel. Just some of those finer details that I try to weave into a broadcast. How's the crowd filled in? What's the supporter section like on the road? How many Union fans have traveled? That sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, as far as favorite cities this year, which has been amazing. We've been traveling during the playoff run as well. Ironically, I'll tell you, my favorite road stadium has been Cincinnati. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm.
excited that we'll be going back for the Eastern Conference semifinals there. TQL Stadium, which opened a couple years ago. I mean, that press box is like a college football press box. Our booth is big. It's high, but not too high. It's kind of equivalent to maybe a little bit higher calling a game from Subaru Park. Subaru Park's view for the media, you both, I'm sure, can attest to it, is beautiful.
Right.
And as far as a
Mm-hmm.
broadcaster goes, I'm right off that center line It is a great view. It's not I'm not in a booth as big as the TV booth, but it is gorgeous and plenty of room for me. And whether I'm doing the game with Shannon Williams or Sebastian Latu, our producer, Kyle Morello, and others, Marty Dickerson, our engineer, and others who are facilitating the broadcast. So very grateful for that setup. But TQL Stadium definitely is number one for me as far as the atmosphere's great. It's kind of like a European stadium, like it's downtown on the west end of town. Like I don't know if we're staying at the same spot, but we stay closer to the middle of town, but in this neighborhood that's called like Over the Rhine, a neighborhood in Cincinnati. It's tons of cool restaurants. I was going to say like up and coming, but it's really not. It's there. It's like a lot of young professionals, and they're building up the area around the stadium, but it still feels like that downtown stadium where Shannon and I walked. I think we got a pregame bite at a pizza place and then walked through a park to the stadium, which hopefully we'll get to do before the game against Cincinnati again. So that sticks out just when you ask me. I love doing a game from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, just how gorgeous that venue is. The broadcast booth is very high up, so you kind of feel away from the action a little bit compared to some of the other soccer-specific stadiums. Of course, that's in an NFL venue where Atlanta plays, but gorgeous. I mean, when you're on the turf there down and you're looking up with the whole opening with the circle up top, I mean, I'm like a fat kid in a candy store. It's great being there. So that's another one. And then I like the other trips, Nashville, just going there, how beautiful Nashville. I've been to Nashville doing other broadcasts as well. Nashville Stadium's pretty cool, just outside the downtown area. So I thought it would have been a little bit closer to Broadway, and it is close. It's like a 15-minute drive, which is not far at all, but it's not walking distance. So it wasn't what I thought. Stadium's nice in the middle, like of a neighborhood as well, and great support. And then the last one I'll give you, Columbus. Columbus has, which the Union could be going there for the final there, Orlando, hoping that we win and take care of business against Cincy. Columbus is another great downtown area. I have a cousin who goes to Ohio State, but we stay in the downtown area, and you can walk through the downtown, and where the Columbus Blue Jackets are, like further towards the river, all kind of within walking distance. It's a little walk, but that's one of a lower.com field, 2 tiers. Their supporter section is raucous. Our booth is closer to the end, like towards the end line. So not like the best view for a visiting radio, but I'm all in on the atmospheres. You can put me, like I've called games on top of roofs through chicken wire. So I don't want to come across like I'm complaining about any view, because that's not the case. I mean, I could go through all my young career of different venues where I've had, views that weren't great. And you know what? You be as professional and honest with the audience as possible. And you try to have a great experience. And I'm very fortunate, very grateful to the Union that they do travel their broadcast team beginning this year. So I've had a ton of fun with our whole crew, and getting to know not just the way we travel, but the coaches, the players. So just seeing us interact outside of like going to training or just a game day, I think it's nice to be a little part of the Union family on the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you brought up Cincy, because I know that's the place we haven't been yet, but we're heading out. We're going to Cincy next week. Yeah, we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Shane and I have run into several fans. There's one family in particular that we ran into them with a group of 12 to 15 people. They rented a house in Cincy, and we also saw them before one of the recent games as well. I think it was New England. New England's cool. Doing a game in Foxborough is awesome. The booth is great. You're low. But, I love the soccer-specific stadiums. And I did mention Mercedes-Benz as well. But Mercedes-Benz is beautiful in its own. But there's something to be said about the soccer specific stadium. So I'm excited that you guys are going to Cincy. I'm sure you have a lot of great
Yeah.
plans, ready to go.
Yeah, we're real excited. I mean, road tripping out there, you know,
Nice.
so yeah, I mean, seeing these soccer games has been a great way just to see different parts of the country. I mean, that's got to be a really cool aspect of the job, you know, getting to see some different places. And I know for us, like we went out to the Colorado game too
This
back
year.
in May. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And we'd never been.
Oh, it was so I love the stadium. It's very tiny. It's
Yeah.
MLS 1.0, as I like to say. Um, she was down the sports section. I ended up going up to the press box, which is funny because it was me and Todd Lewis doing the post game presser, and it was basically him and I in there in this little locker room, just
Just
giving
those two and Jim.
just us and Jim,
Wow.
and it was a really cool experience. You know, you talk about
Yeah.
experiences, just sitting there taking your notes and asking questions. It was a really cool experience, and it's a beautiful stadium. It's out kind of north of Denver,
Commerce
and it's
City,
in the middle.
Colorado, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, there's a wildlife preserve next to it. So literally before the game, we went on this wildlife, went out to check out like the buffalo and all different like animals. It was a really cool time. And
Yeah.
the other thing I really liked about it is the view. Before it started getting dark, you could see the mountains and everything. It's just a really nice stadium. We even said we encourage people to go out there. There's not a lot to do around the stadium itself, but it's a cool thing. It's a cool place.
Yeah. But yeah.
I think going on a road trip, just the bonding experience, whether with friends, family, or I'm in a working capacity. Doing the game is obviously, going to a game as a fan or broadcasting the game. That's one of the obviously the paramount reason why you're making the trip. But I think the memories that are made, and I can remember these long road trips that going back to where I didn't make any money, and like you said, like doing games. Start my career in Indiana with the Indiana Daily Student, our student newspaper that published 5 days a week. Kids would read it like you wouldn't believe college kids would read a newspaper, but it was just as big as the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I'm not exaggerating. And kids would read it so much like before every class because that was like the thing to do. And I used to write for the sports section my like freshman and sophomore years, and I would take road trips from Bloomington, Indiana to 13 hours to Minneapolis to Minnesota to cover like Indiana versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers in football, or the Vikings used to play at the Metrodome, or take the drive out to Penn State from Bloomington, or to Champaign, Illinois, or other places outside the Big Ten, or even into Kentucky to do games at Rupp Arena. So I'm happy you guys went to Commerce City, and I'm glad you're going to Cincinnati, and hopefully many more road trips to come. That's very exciting, and congrats on doing all that stuff. That's great.
Thank you. And it's been a passion. Like I think this year we're probably hopefully a win. Hopefully a win next Saturday. We'll see. I mean, let's say we just don't turn around, go back out to Columbus, or we fly down to Orlando. I mean, we're gonna follow this team we did last
We
year.
went to the MLS Cup in LA,
Last
so
year,
we were there.
so
It was
yeah,
an experience. So yeah.
It's
been
about the
fun.
memories. It's about the memories, and it's about the experiences, and it's something that we're very blessed at the Union, and this time that we get to share through the Union.
Well, I mean, it's the
and
one
the
team we agree
friends
on. So
and friends. Yeah, it's one team we agree on.
The team he likes,
So
That's right. That's the most important thing. And you also know that, should we go, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but should we get through the next two games, MLS Cup would be through Chester.
Yep.
Would be at home.
And
could you imagine
so
I know like everybody was going crazy with the Messi game, the semifinal Leagues Cup. Right? Unfortunately, we fell in that one. But the atmosphere, I know there were a ton of Messi fans out there. The atmosphere was arguably the best it's ever been for a Union home game, right? Just the buzz around it, a lot of the casual 4-for-4 Philly sports fans that were talking about the Union, and I felt like, and I'm always looking for, I'm always a champion wearing my Union gear out in, Philly or the suburbs, or even the tri-state area, just always talking the Union. Someone sees a jacket or a shirt I'm wearing to grow the product, to grow the brand. And I just think like it having the championship, the final here, I hope would have that messy like buzz in the area, would capture all those fans that know about us, that maybe follow from afar, that maybe aren't in like you guys when you went to, your first game. You told me what 2019 Atlanta game. Like
Mhm.
I think we would capture so many people. So I'm
I do
hoping
too.
this group we played. We played a ton of games this year. I think this upcoming will be game 51 across all
Correct.
competitions. I mean, that's crazy. So these
Mhm.
guys, they got a lot of miles on their legs. We played all these different competitions, including, people forget, I know the Open Cup game, that wild game at
Mhm.
Minnesota, Leagues Cup, Champions League, or now called Champions Cup, and obviously the regular season and all these breaks in between. What are they going to have? Like, they're going to have a couple weeks and then they go right to, preseason in January down in Clearwater again. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping it continues. I want to see this group
Yep.
stay together and kind of avenge what happened last year. And I do feel, last thing, and then I'll let you continue. I do feel like these guys still, they're not getting their due this year. I think everybody's talking about the Cincinnati's who won their first trophy, and hats off to them. An amazing year by Pat Noonan, Chris Albright, and their entire staff and team.
Mm-hmm.
Orlando's coming up really big right now, playing in a very attractive brand of soccer. Columbus as well, thumped Atlanta in game 3. They're a fun team to watch. World for Nancy has them clicking, but I feel like, and there's so many teams on the West, but I feel like there's a lot of the pundits may say, "Oh, the Union have been so up and down," and we have. Our coaching staff will tell you
Yeah.
that. Our players will tell you that, and you both know we have been up and down.
Mm-hmm.
No, isn't.
Mhm.
But I think the experience of us playing, the final last year, losing in penalties, being up a couple times in that final, and then Champions League getting to the semifinal, Leagues Cup getting to the semifinals. I think, and we can win on the road.
Mhm.
We
So
can.
and I feel like we can get it done. And I think that these guys still, my sense is like, all the pundits can pick the other teams. So we come in as the 4 seed. I don't think the seeding matters. I really don't. So obviously I'm biased. I'm wearing the Union badge. I'm not just saying
Mhm.
company line here. I'll tell you like it is. And I do get the feeling that we are kind of forgotten this year amongst many. And I think I think that resonates with the guys, and I think they're gonna give their best shot, and
Mhm.
I don't think people should be surprised if we do go out there and beat Cincinnati.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head this year. We had the expectations coming in this year that were so high. And then all those games, the fact that this is the longest season in MLS history, right?
Yeah.
So all these games, and when you sit down and you literally look at it, because I track all the results and all that, the Union were fine. I mean, did they have 7 wins like they did on the road last year? No, but they had 5. That's still
Right.
top 3 in franchise history, I believe. It's right there. And so you so for the people that are saying, well, can they do it? I don't know, this and this. They can still do it. They have the talent. It's everybody's tired right now, and it's been such a long season. And now you got kind of the layover with the international break. So this is going to kind of segue into my next question here is, first, what is your overall thought of this whole playoff format? And then second, with this year in general, what is your thought on the Apple deal? How has it impacted the league, good or bad? And what do you think the evolution of it moving forward is?
Well, I'll say this: the first thing is with the playoff question. I do not like the format at all. I know I'm not the first to say that.
Nope.
I,
No, you're not.
I don't like that we have 17 days to go from the end of beating New England in Game 2 to this conference semifinal at Cincinnati. Having said all that, it's not the league's fault entirely, because there are international windows built in to the schedule, to the FIFA window. So that's just a fact. Could things have been better planned? Could things have been a shorter season? Then you're bringing in Leagues Cup, which was new. There were a lot of factors. I don't think this will be repeated for next year. I think the league office has heard everybody. Broadcasters, fans is the most important thing, the people that consume the product, advertising. And all these long layoffs, even like the 3-game series that we played, or the best of 3 against New England, took a little bit of time. How many days was in between games 1 and 2? I mean, it was long, right? It was like 11 days or something. I forget because I'm on the Cincinnati prep. But
I know it all runs together.
It really has.
So what happened is we lost momentum, which I think playoffs is like the most exciting time of the year. The season is so long, right? Where I remember I can close my eyes and think back to when I was wearing a jacket in February and March and then taking it off quickly and it being 90 degrees down off the banks of the Delaware for games in July and August, and then the League's Cup run. I mean, it's a really long year. And I think for the diehard supporters, the Sons of Ben, fan season ticket holders, people like you and me, we know what's going on. You follow the stats, the figures, who's up, who's down, who's kind of the same, transactions, but you're losing all that casual fan base. That's like, oh, the Union are still playing. How are they doing? Oh, they're now a 4 seed. They're now a 2 seed, 3 seed. It's hard for those people to follow. And then you have the playoffs where there's a break, and then there's this 3-game best of 3, which is not new. It was done before in the early days of MLS. In theory, it sounds cool. I love it. I think, though, like when the Union are up 3-1, I mean, and there's no aggregate, doesn't really matter. That's so if you want to guarantee from moving forward that teams get a home playoff game, why not go back to the 2-game aggregate?
Yes.
I don't think it's a bad thing. And I know it's been done before, obviously. So that's kind of, so I would see it as in the future, if it was me, I would say sitting at the table, work out the schedule, number one, where there's no big breaks. I think you got to go bing, bang, boom, whether it's a game, single elimination every week, and hopefully no FIFA windows or anything like that. Or, I think it needs to begin like right after decision day. If you're going to have these wild card games, I would love to see them, call me crazy, like decision day is Sunday, play the wild card Wednesday or Thursday. I mean, they're wild cards for a reason. They're just squeaking in the playoffs, and then have the team that's on a bye play over the weekend, and then everybody else at the same time. So that's what I would do. Either go back to the single elimination format, or go to, the 2-game aggregate series, and then you maybe do 2 games up until, the final, or maybe the conference final, something like that. So that's how I would rework the playoffs, whether that means a shorter MLS season in the playoffs. I also think, to bookend that point, that there's too many teams that are in the playoffs too. I think the goal is that, you play a regular season, right? And you're trying to win the Supporters Shield, have the best record. You should be rewarded based on your regular season results. Cincinnati they won the Supporters Shield. The Union were in 2020 when we won the Supporters Shield. Look, we had the record that we have now, at 55 points. We hold the better record than any Western Conference team that's left. That's why we host MLS Cup 2023, should we get there. I think that's great. The regular season dictated that. But allowing the 9 teams out of the 15, I mean, it's a lot. So could they go back to 8 or 7? I think that's something to be discussed. As far as the Apple TV deal, it goes back to my losing the casual fans. I think, today with streaming services out there, Apple TV, Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, ESPN Plus, you name it. It's a lot of money for people like you and me out there.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, families are going to pick and choose what they want to pay for. I know for season ticket holders, one account was given for free, which was amazing. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, the vast majority of us have to pay for Apple TV. And I love the product. You know, I pay for it myself.
We do too.
It helps me prep. It's easy to use. So, but I do think it took some learning. I can do it. Can my dad do it? Well, I can tell him what to do. And he's tech savvy enough. He could do it, but they're definitely targeting a specific younger demographic at that. And I know that's where MLS's fans are. I do think what I miss, one of the negative sides as it pertains to me, is losing, you know, the connection with the local fans on local TV. I do their games on the radio, but interacting with the fans on our set above Section 113, and people would come by, and I'd have come on the set and have a picture with Sebastian. Forget me, just watch us do a live pregame or postgame from the field, or doing halftime there, and seeing young kids just get like excited. I used to be that guy that would look at announcers or former players and like on a set, walking into a stadium and being like, oh my God, that looks so cool. And then the interactions with, you know, our whole broadcast team. I mentioned the great JP Dellacamera, Danny Higginbottom, who's doing a great job with Apple, and Tom Smith before him, and Peter Pappas before him, and Sebastian, Shannon Williams, Marissa Pilla, and others who have been a part of the broadcast team. I miss that. We're very grateful that we still have a local broadcast that worked from TV to picking up on the radio side. Sebastian Latou and I have done radio. Many people might not realize since 2020, we actually did all the MLS's back tournament games on Fox Sports The Gambler at the time, in 2020, when we would do it out of the booth at Subaru Park off the monitor, because all the games were on national TV. If you remember, like on ESPN, I think, in that Disney bubble down there. And we did all those games, and then that led to us doing every time the Union were on national TV, we'd have our standalone radio broadcast as well. Seba does the games now for French TV for Apple. And Shannon Williams has been with me the last couple of years doing pregame, halftime, and postgame. And he's fit in great. We have a great rapport on and off the air, and I love calling a game with him, whether it's him or Sebastian, our producer, Kyle Morello, and others who have set us up for success. Great partnership with 97.5 The Fanatic this year, which has been amazing distribution, I think, for the team, getting just our brand out there, to hear Union Soccer on the radio in a top media market without a local TV presence is huge. So the Apple TV gets you that worldwide distribution. It's cool to navigate. I can scroll and watch any other game pretty quickly, and do prep work and what. But I will say that the league knows, and they're going to listen to the fans, that all the games started at the same time this year. Well, it was hard for a lot of fans to follow other teams and what was going on.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that the playoff schedule, I think these things, it's the first year, and you got to know it's frustrating for people. And it's like, I love it. And then it's like, I still miss the local TV that we had to say goodbye to everybody on decision day last year. That was really hard when JP and I were on that set on the post game, and I kind of gave the floor to JP, and I just listened to him saying goodbye to everybody and hugging him on the set. It was very emotional, and I wish we could still. I wish there was some way we still had a local TV component, but love doing the radio, very grateful to do it, happy to do it. And, I think that, it's a long season, but I'm hoping that it's a great ending to a long season for the Union in 2023. Having said all that, I know that was a lot.
No, you literally hit everything throughout this season that myself, her,
Like everyone's been
a
saying.
lot of our friends,
Mhm.
other podcasters, people, when I'm up at, everybody's saying this. And so, but I also agree that this is the first year.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that this playoff format and everything, I'm with you. I think they're going to go back, reevaluate, because at the end of the day, MLS isn't going to just sit there and go, nope, we're going to dig our feet in the sand. This is how we're doing it moving forward. Maybe certain things, but we've even said this, like, they're going to go back and say, man, these games, we got to look at where can we optimize business but also take care of player safety. That's the hope, you know what I'm saying? And the exhaustion and all that,
No,
that's
you're
the other
right.
thing. That's the other thing. We've been talking about this too, the injuries, and
Yeah.
not just on the Union side.
It's the whole league.
It's the whole league.
Mhm.
And you're even seeing this in like European leagues. I was, because my full-time job, I work in the health field now, and there's reports now about just overuse, soccer, football. It's not even just soccer, it's all sports, because we're just extending competition. But that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother podcast.
No, you're spot on. And look at it like this: the best of three is a great idea in theory, but correct me if I'm wrong. The only seed that got upended or got upset was what? Sporting Kansas City winning. They got through in the wild card right against San Jose, and then they beat St. Louis.
Yep.
That was the only thing.
That was the only one, like, of all the playoff matchups, right? There weren't any big upsets. I know there were a couple game threes that I watched. I actually watched all the playoffs because it's exciting, and I'm obviously
It was
broadcasting in it, so that's one thing. But I enjoyed it. But did having the best of three give you like that? Oh my, you know what I'm saying? Like it didn't give you that. Oh, here comes an upset brewing, or this, like, there were some thrilling games. I watched, the Seattle one, the Houston RSL. There were a couple sweeps as well, including us over New England. But, I'm sitting there watching, obviously, the Columbus Atlanta game, and Columbus was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, a poor mistake by center back Miles Robinson led to the first goal for Columbus by Darlington Nagbe rather quickly. And then, then Amundsen as a strike, then Alexander Matan. It was like one after the other. And then Atlanta would score like right away, like literally like a minute later, which was pretty funny twice. But they didn't pack the punch. I feel like the league thought they would. And that's, if I'm forecasting, I don't think they do the best of three next year. But maybe they will. They're going to hear from their stakeholders, and that's not just us. That's the owners, that's the people with the money, and the advertisers, and with Apple, and if it's about getting games on, and having the lower seeds who make the playoffs get a home game, maybe you go to the aggregate, have total goals, make everybody happy to get their gate receipts, and because you're finding out now that the top seeds will move on. I think you both may know better than me, but I don't think we've seen a seed lower than 4 or 5 win MLS Cup in quite some time.
No, I think I saw a report, and again, somebody will correct me if we're wrong. Exactly. I believe Portland was one of the lowest to get that New York Portland series. 2021, that was like one of the lowest seeds to actually like matchups in terms of MLS Cup. You're right. This year, last year, a lot of these times, I mean, this game, you look at the playoff brackets and they're pretty much identical. There wasn't this upheaval other than Sporting KC. Now, my whole thought is where does this layover lay to? Because we look at 2020 when we had that layover with the Union coming off the Supporter Shield. We look at 2021, New England, NYCFC. That layoff for New England, I think they had something like almost a week, 2.5 weeks, because they played, if you remember right, the Union played, I believe, 2 games before they even played their first playoff game, because they beat Nashville, and then I think, we were waiting to see if we were going to Boston or if we were staying in Chester. So long story short, this long breaks now, the second, third rounds, they could get a little interesting.
And don't forget, and people may not realize with the Union in this game going into Cincinnati, is you have several guys that are on international duty. They're really only going to have like a day or two to train with the full team before they go out to the Queen City at Cincinnati. And that's tough, given the long break, like you're saying. And that's why, like, that first, like, people get so frustrated, including myself sometimes, calling the games. But at first 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're not seeing too much from either side. I think, like we'll see in the Cincinnati game, there will be a feeling out process. Like, yeah, a bad mistake may cause an early goal in the 3rd or 5th minute, which hopefully for the Union, that we're the ones scoring. But I think going into this, like, I wouldn't be surprised that it does take a full 20, 25, 30 minutes to kind of say, okay, now we're going to go into attack mode. We're not just going to sit here. We're not going to be conservative in our buildups, right? Or take some more risks with our outside backs moving forward to get just like tactically. Are we going to be, a little more, sitting back in a block a little bit to start the game versus just sending everybody up on like a counter? That's what I'm curious with how the teams are going to approach it. I mentioned this earlier in the pod. Union 17-day break, Cincinnati 21. I think the other teams, it's all around 15 to 20 some, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few 18, 19, you're right. And so everybody's in the same boat. It's not like someone has a competitive advantage over the other. The only advantage, I would say, for the higher seeds, as we all know, is they're at home.
Right.
So, the Union know how to win on the road. Like you said, they got the five wins in the regular season. Win up there at New England in Game 2, which was awesome to see. And I'm confident the Union are on, if they're in their top form, and like I said, it may be that 15, 20 minute mark to look out for. I think we can win there. And we have won there before. And, this year, remember, we played there early on in the year. We rotated a lot that game because that was in the midst of Champions League. So some people might forget that, where we lost 1-0. And then, the game here, we were up 2-0. And, I know they drew 2-2 with us. And the Pupenza kid that they signed, Aaron Pupenza's been playing very well. There's been some problems, I think, going on with him in the front office, disciplinary things that I don't know everything. I'm not trying to break anything, but other than what I'm reading, and it's so I know that's probably been tough for the club to handle. I know he's played with a lot of clubs over a short amount of time, but he was a great addition, and he had the goal against us to tie it. So I think they're missing a couple big guys, though, right? They're missing Matt Miazga, U.S. international center back, out due to yellow card suspension. Nick Haglin out due to injury. How are they going to adjust with 3 or 5 in the back? Who's going to be that third center back? Will Ray Gaddis come in and be that right center back next to Gerson Mascara and Ian Murphy? And then you have Arias right flying up the right. He's great. And obviously the danger man, arguably their best player next to Lucho Acosta, who's an MVP candidate, Alvaro Barriel, who gets high up the left. Like, they are so similar to the Union. It's funny to see, right? With Pat Noonan, there's their head coach, and Chris Albright. I know everybody on here listening or watching knows them and their background, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining game, and I'm excited to see our guys because, like I said a little bit ago, I think there's that chip that nobody's talking about us. I think they're
Right.
ready to deliver. I really do.
Yeah. And I think, Kyle, our away trip record has been pretty good. Four of those five away games that they won, we were at those.
Yes.
We just weren't at Nashville.
No.
So hopefully that carries on.
No,
Do you guys like to go early to the stadium? Like, what's your ritual? Do you like to walk around?
Oh, that's a
park?
good
Do you tailgate. Like, what's your go-to plan usually?
Well, okay. So the home games are always at the Sons of Ben tailgate. That's, except for I barely got to go to the last one because we were at a swim meet in Shippensburg or in Chambersburg. But yeah, for this one, I don't know, we're still kind of planning that one out.
We're still planning that out. Usually, generally, when we go to like on the road. So for instance, like Colorado, we kind of just walked around, took video pictures, kind of took in the experience, got to see what the vendors are. Is there any unique like
we look at like the food
options
and
it's just
the
interesting experiences. And then if I'm not in the press box, then we're usually like checking out a little bit more of the tailgate atmosphere, etc., etc. And if not, she's usually
you abandon me to go to the press box, and I just walk around and joke about that. Socialize.
And she'll go around, socialize with other supporters that we've gotten to meet throughout the years, and kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like the fact that he can go up in the press box and I can go. We sit, I'm in 136 at the river end, but like I can go up there and I know everybody, and it's no big deal. It's all family. And at the away games, I know enough people even that travel, so that's been pretty cool. But yeah, just like hanging out with the other people that go either official tailgates or we kind of do our own thing, so.
And it's been really cool with that, where I'm up there, seeing different vantage point, as being up there, kind of listening and hearing different writers, media thoughts on the game, and collecting all that. And she's down there with the fans, kind of seeing the visuals, the sights, and the atmosphere. And then we bring it back and what'd you see? What did I see?
And I'm texting him like, is that a PK?
Yeah,
is that a PK?
So
what is that?
It's the two different kind of vantage points. And then we have friends of ours that are at home on TV, like texting us like, hey, they just showed the VAR. This is what we think. This is what I think. So it's this really cool dynamic. And then at the end of the week or the end of the games, we kind of come back here, kind of bring that together. So it's been really cool experience for us in that aspect of our ritual. But generally, like if we're both in River End, our rituals, the Sons of Ben tailgate, walk around the stadium, talk to friends.
We always go look at the dogs.
The dogs, and look at that.
Like the Sons of Ben tailgate moving from like its previous location where those beautiful training fields are to the paved lot there, outside that suite entrance.
It's yin and yang. I like the old place because you could have that really, really nice march in where all the everybody's marching straight in the old way to the supporters lot. And people walking around. But this new place, now you're seeing a lot of the crowd now with the Union Yards, which has been a nice addition. I think that's going to continue to grow. Now with the march, you'll see more people kind of just sitting there walking, going, oh, I'm going to join in, that we're at Union Yards.
Yeah, I see that, like walking around.
Yeah.
I could watch from above, like they walk around like the suite entrance all the way around, like the where the fun stuff is.
Yeah, overall I really like the new location. Awesome. And then it's been fun because after the game, I'll either be waiting for him to get done the press conference or I'll just go out and we got the Union Yards to go to afterward. People hang out there and people hang out in the Sons of Ben tailgate area too, just hanging out. So it's been pretty fun, the before and after rituals that we've done. And honestly, like I've missed doing that since we haven't been at home for a while. It's been weird because we had a while where it's like all the time. It was kind of our social life, I think, getting to do the tailgates and all that. So so I'm hoping we get to be back at the Subs this season. Yeah, that would be awesome.
2 more questions here. I want to get your impression. You kind of talked a little bit about the New England game, but the improvement, especially of the homegrowns, like Nate Harriel this year, how impressive you've been with his improvement, as Jim has called him, Ariel Harriel now. And if not just him, who else have you seen? And maybe not just the homegrowns. Obviously, you can name Chris Donovan too. Who else has impressed you in terms of, oh wow, they've improved? Because for me and a lot of other people, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. People are like, oh, the expectations were so high. Did players regress this year? And in certain spots, maybe you could say yes, no, but who's improved to you this year?
Well, Nate's definitely one of them. When he's getting time, and whenever he's flip flop with, on the right hand side with Olivier,
Mhm.
uh, whether he's played on the right for him or Nate's at the flip over to the left hand side, he's done a great job. I think his defending is very strong. I think that it's, to me, it's like the recovery sprints. For like, he's always there. If he's a step behind, I feel like he can get back and shut down a guy flying up if he's playing on the right, that left hand flank. Um, I also think he's so dynamic and fun to watch and fun to broadcast on set pieces. It's his
Mhm.
ability to, like Jim said, get in the air high. He's he's terrific. I think that I've watched back some film on that. It's like his approach, and then it's like his approach, like a couple of steps, he'll like shade off a defender's back left shoulder, just leap up in the air, and give credit to the guy delivering the ball. I know the suspension's there for Kai Wagner, but Kai's had a standout 2023 too. It's
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
obviously a shame what happened. Um,
Right.
um, and it's something that shouldn't have been said, period.
Mm-hmm.
But Nate has to be commended to being the recipient of all those great set pieces from Kai.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. And I think Nate doesn't get, and I started off with the defending because I don't think Nate gets enough credit on that side. And whether it's the partnership with Bedoya on the right, or where McGlynn has been on the right, or Nate shifting over to the left, and teams like, I see, and I asked Jim, like, do you find our teams picking on Harriel's side more than Bizo with, and he said, like, that's not necessarily the case. Nate's been great for us this year.
Mhm.
And you got to give credit to the partnerships around him too. It's Jose Martinez at the base of the diamond, or Jesus Bueno coming in, whether it's Iglesias before the hernia, or Jack Elliott, or when he flips over to like the Damian Lowe side, for
Mhm.
example, D Lowe starts on that side. All those three center backs next to Nate have been great for him, including Andre Blake as well.
Mhm.
But Nate has to be commended for shutting down or helping to limit a lot of the opposing wingers. And I think that attests to kind of, I'm not going to break down the tactical stuff that a coach could to you, but from a broadcast standpoint, he's not getting beat all that
Right.
much in
Mhm.
2023. Will he? Do I want to see him fly up and take risks and send in more crosses like Kai would, for example? Oh my God, of course, who wouldn't? I think
Mhm.
the Union aren't putting in more, like, 4 or 5 or 6 crosses, a half, then we're not doing our job the Union way. So I love, you could make the case that Olivier Bizo maybe gets up, it takes more risks forward than Nate Harriel does, for example.
Mhm.
But I think when Nate gets forward and chooses his moments too, everybody's going to have a mistake here and there. It happens to everybody. We saw, like I mentioned, Miles Robinson giving one away to Columbus. Things happen. I know it happened on one of the goals with Nate recently.
Mhm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in totality, he's been great. The other one is Jack McGlynn.
Mhm.
McGlynn's whose playing time, you remember at the beginning of the year, was his starting playing time was
Right.
spotty, right?
Mhm.
But into like if I could recollect correctly, like middle of the year, then moving on, he's been in, full intact to the starting lineup. And really, unfortunately, due to the injury of Leon Flock.
Yeah.
Right.
And McGlynn's, I mean, Jack is, to me, so well beyond his years. Like, it's like he's slow. When people say, like, that guy or girl like slows things down and just the game comes
Mhm.
easy. You can apply that to swimming, diving, basketball, whatever sport or anything in life. Like, I just feel like the game slows down easy for Jack. And it's his passing accuracy, his ability to like roll the ball, just like even like just like fundamentally from his left to his right, shift it back to his left, get him in position, and then run back. And it's the type of crosses he puts in. Even some of the fires that I saw him put out against New England, I thought were great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think he was the only one shutting down Noel Buck in one of the games, but Buck didn't have like the best game. I thought that he's like a highly talented young guy, coming up. And I think McGlynn and others were responsible for shutting down him and others who could have been big up the right hand side. I know Farrell came up big. He asked me a little bit about New England. Remember, Andrew Farrell got a ton of crosses
Oh
on
yeah.
Harriel McGlynn's side, had a lot of real estate on the right, and Andre, I know, bailed out the Union a couple times on Farrell. But Jack, to me, is having a fantastic year. And you mentioned the front three about the numbers. You got to remember, and I think this gets lost. Carranza, Ua, and Gazdag all had career years last year.
Correct.
Amazing numbers. What was it? Gazdag had 22 goals last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Insane.
But look at the numbers this year, and I know Gazdag's had a ton for the penalty spot, so put that aside.
Right.
But look at Carranza's numbers this year. I know Ua scores in bunches. We all know that. But the numbers, they're not equal to last year, but like Carranza's, for example, are not far off from he's got 13 or 14 again. Ua, the same thing, over the 10-goal thresh mark. The same thing with Gazdag. Have they come from open play, and have we seen the creativity and the type of goals that we scored last year that made our jaws drop? No, we haven't. And that's a fair comment. I know there's been a ton of draws this year, which were so head scratching, right? Where we had, what was it, six or seven straight draws.
Yeah,
that was tough, right? We could have been a higher seed probably if a couple of those turned into wins. But now that Carranza is healthy, he's back in training, which has been posted on Union social media accounts, and that Hammy's doing well. I think that's huge. It sucks that former MLS Defender of the Year Glesnes is still, coming off the hernia surgery, and he's doing his best to get ready. Hopefully, that he can come back. Like, Jim won't rule out like MLS Cup if we get there. I see him at training. He's off to the side and doing his thing, and Leon Flock back with the team as well. The injury that happened to him, I think people forget. I think, the last one for me, just to bookend this one, is Quinn Sullivan. When Quinn's minutes, Quinn's out there ready to rumble, which I love. He's got a Philly kid through and through. He's got that spirit. And you can tell when he gets into the game, he's hungry to make an impact. And I remember when he scored, I think it was against Charlotte and Dallas this year. I think it was a stretch of 2 goals in 4 games, or 2 in 5. You just, you would love to see him get on the field more. The issue is, and it happened when Paxton Aronson was on this Union team, it's like Gazdag was in front of him. That you can make the case for Brendan Aronson when. I know Brendan played a little bit more than Paxton for our first team, but I recollect, wasn't it Bork Dochkow was like at that number 10 position at that time. So it's a good problem to have, because the Union have put out some of the best like starters now in recent years than they have in the history of the club since the first year in 2010. So you mixed in, which I think is a great thing, just in my time with the club and seeing the rest of the league, you're mixing in youth with experience. People can say all they want about Alejandro Bedoya. Bedoya, I think, Bedoya gets to the green zone, which is that area that the coaching staff will tell you, like just outside the 18, like almost more than anybody. And it's also like, I love his flicks off of set pieces, and he's the leader. So I'm so happy that Bedoya is part of this team and what he does on that that right side of the diamond, and that's why he's out there. He makes it impact,
Absolutely.
and
He
it's got
does.
on the right. So, are the numbers like 2022? Absolutely not. And for anybody to come on here and tell you where they would be kidding. But you can make the case that we made little change from last year to this year. You could say running the team back. We lose Corey Burke. We don't have the depth maybe that we had last year. Those are all fair comments. We didn't have as many clean sheets as we had last year. We lost at home to Orlando in the regular season early in March, and we lost in the League's Cup to Miami and this and that, and Champions League happened. But like we said at the start, 51 games coming.
Mm-hmm.
The Union have to be applauded for getting through the year, and just hope that they give a quality performance against Cincinnati, which I think they will.
Right.
I don't think either team is going in there and winning like 3-0 and that's it.
No.
That would shock me if it's not scoring.
Yeah.
If that's Cincinnati at home. I just don't see that both teams are too good. I know there's breaks now with the whole 17-day break for the Union. But both teams they have too much quality within the club. And
right.
And obviously having Andre Blake just lastly be the guy that he is, and he keeps our team in so many games as well. I think, a lot of casual fans ask me, guys, like, how come Andre's not playing in Europe or this and that? And I counter and say, we are so fortunate that
we are
anywhere else. Because, he is our quote unquote safety net back there. He's our, I love saying on air, there's another save for Brick Wall Blake. I mean, I love when he makes that Herculean stop to preserve a shutout or keep a lead, what have you. So I know I'm going long on that answer, but that's
you're
club.
No, you're fine, and you're right about this upcoming match with Cincinnati, because the last 3 times these teams have met, 1-0, 1-0, and then a 2-2 draw. So this is going to be a very physical, and these are 2 teams that know each other well, not just in the front office and the coaching position, but also some of the players, former Union players on the other side as well now. So, and another funny thing to your point, we talk about the goals from last year, historic numbers. The Union still, over the last 2 years, still are the top, the threesome of Gazda, Uwa, and Carranza are still even in this year, is still over the 2 years, the top scoring trio in MLS. Guess who's number 2? Cincinnati. Even with Bupenza being added. So
yeah, it's been a treat to watch those guys.
It has been. So we're seeing some clashes of, like you said, styles. Both Pat and Jim know each other well, what they want to do. But from your aspect up there and looking ahead to this game, what is the key to the game to get the Union back to the Eastern Conference Finals, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's to take advantage of whatever that change is going to be. And I mentioned that early on, of the center backs, without Miazga out due to suspension, Nick Haglund out due to injury. They're going to have to make a change. And I don't expect Pat and his staff to deviate from 3 or call it 5 in the back. So 3 center backs are going to be there. And my guess is probably Ray Gaddis will come in as one of those spots, because I don't see them putting Sammy Arias, who plays the right wing back spot. I mean, Ray can play that. And he's played that against the Union, I think, coming in as a sub in one of the games. One of these started, I think one he subbed on. So I think it's number 1, it's trying to exploit that matchup. Who is that change going to be? Number 2 is when Harriel gets high up on the left, which he will, and Arias gets high on the right. How can we quickly dispossess Cincinnati out of the middle, catch those guys high, and get behind them to create overloads on the outside. And I'm not trying to simplify it, but give you kind of a tactical breakdown here, but to see where we can hit them on a counter, where we can have these like little 2v1s on the flanks to get some crosses in. And you know, like I said earlier, get a minimum of 4 crosses and a half. That's wonderful. Like we didn't get a ton of crosses. I remember, I believe it was in game 1 against New England. I thought or on decision day, I'm actually thinking about when we were up there. I was like, where were the crosses in half number 1? I know we lost on decision day due to the brace, Gustavo Bo, and obviously erased with the win in the playoffs over New England. But that for me is key. Another one is the health of Obino Wobodo is probably one of the best midfielders in the league. I know he was subbed out in the Red Bull game. I know he's kind of been mired with a little bit, I think it's like a leg or a foot injury. He's great. Connects passes, puts out fires, will stop impending attacks or transition moments, will start them for Cincinnati. It's kind of like your do it all kind of guy in the midfield. If he doesn't play, that's huge. That's a huge miss for Cincinnati. And I don't know if really like Pinto starts for them or one of their younger kids, Yuya Kubo, could come in and play that spot. If Wobodo can't go, that's a huge advantage for the Union. If they're missing Wobodo, Hagelin, and Diazga, my goodness. So that's another one. And then I will say, you know, in the attack, Jose Martinez has to be a stalwart on Lucho Acosta.
They're right there.
You know, I know Jose's good. I know he has 1 yellow card in the playoffs. I know he'll be up for the challenge. You know what Jose can do. And it's not just going to be him, but it's also going to be Danny Gazdag, like our 10 against their 10. And what are you seeing productivity wise from the number 10s? How do we get our front 3 clicking? And I don't want to see like, you know, our guys not having any scoring opportunity, and I'm seeing it's Vasquez, and if Dominic Baji starts for them up top, or Sergio Santos, former player, and Acosta just wheeling and dealing with Harriel. Like to me, like the toughest matchup is the Harriel, Acosta, Vasquez, like that triangle there. If you think about that, like on that top left, and you would say that's kind of, if you're going off previous games, you know, that's that Olivier Bizo, Jack Elliott, Jose Martinez, Ali Bedoya realm right on that side of the field, like their left, our right. How are those 4 or 5 guys in just that vicinity going to handle Cincinnati's attack? Because Cincinnati can hit you hard. I know Acosta's a dynamic playmaker. He's having a heck of a year. But I think like though our Union guys, they'll know the game plan very well. Obviously, you can watch a ton of film on the recent games of Cincy and the games that we played them this year, even going back to Leon Flock heroics last year in the playoffs, right? The conference semifinals, 59th minute goal. People forget. It's kind of a weird goal that he scores. Like
it was.
He scored. I couldn't believe it when I called it. The radio. I was like, oh my God, it's Leon Flock.
I'm sitting up in the river end, and I'm just in shock. I'm like, did Leon Flock just score a goal?
And it was kind of like a volley, like a little flick.
Yeah, it was like a little flick off his foot, and like it was right on our side too. So we didn't see him flick, and I'm like, is that going in? Oh my gosh, it's going. Oh my gosh, it just went in. And we're everybody. It was like a pause reaction, river end, like, and everybody,
I don't recollect every moment of that game, and obviously it's a 1-0 game, but Cincinnati's a much better team than they were then, but they hung in that game. Obviously, it's easy to say that was 1-0, but if you go back, and I encourage people listening or watching this, go back and watch the highlights of the 2022 Eastern Conference semifinals. Union against Cincinnati was close, and you know the matchups here. You know, being there's what do they have? 1 loss at home this year. You know, I don't know what it was in the regular season. I think it was 1. It's a tough place too. TQL Stadium's going to be rocking. It's a tough place to win.
Yeah.
So, you know, people say, hey, it's like 51-49 Cincy, you know, because they're at home. I mean, I guess I see that, or because of the 1 seed, maybe it's a little bit more from the national pundit's perspective. I'm feeling confident because of like just a couple of the guys that might be missing for them. Um, Obviously we won't have Kai, so Nate's going to hold down that left back spot and likely see what Jim wants to do. Olivier Guys are likely on the right, but we'll see how we'll counter them. But I think if you just limit the playmaking ability of Acosta, and don't sleep on Dominic Badji, by the way, who's been playing very well for that too. Yeah. So it's like the Union; they don't have too many weaknesses across the field, in my opinion, which has made them very successful. I do think it's the type of game, being the playoffs, if we punch them in the mouth, we get that. If we score first, I'm not going to say if we score, we win the game. And I know it's probably easy to say, oh, we score first, we have the momentum. Yes, that's true. But I just would love to see us set the tone. And even if we don't score first, if we come up with promising attacking sequences and challenge a goalkeeper who actually went to the same college I did, Roman Celentano's been playing very well this year. And the reason why they picked him so high, I think, what was he, like a second overall? I don't have my boards in front of me. Yeah. Out of IU a couple of years ago. I mean, he's been great. But I think the Union have to challenge him, even if it's some shots from the outside, more than we challenged Jacob Jackson, who started decision for New England in game one. And then they went to Earl Edwards Jr. because after a couple shaky mistakes by Jackson that led to penalties, and Edwards coming in game two. It's going to be Celentano, and I just want to see the Union, challenge a guy that has inexperience in MLS playoffs, different from Andre Blake and the rest of the group. Fortunately, this doesn't go right to penalties. If it's tied, we do have the two 15-minute halves of extra time, and then we would go to a penalty shootout. So that's just important for everybody listening or watching to understand from now to the end. So I'm hoping that it's a great Union performance. It sucks that there's this big 17-day break, but I know the guys will be ready. I'm down there at training. I see it. I talk to people. I'm just watching and observing, and I know the fire's going to be there. I know it's disappointing that they're not at home doing it, but they'll be ready, and I can't wait to call it coming up soon.
Yeah, well, awesome. This has been great. We're super excited to go out there and be a part of that too, and see a new stadium, and hopefully we get some really great calls, and I'm saying it right now. I feel a Brujo banger coming.
There you go.
Let's go.
That
must
have
Orlando?
been a fun one to call. Oh yes, that must have been a fun one to call. I'll tell you what.
Oh my God, we were going crazy. We were back in the booth next to our technical booth. Oh my gosh. When he hit that, woo.
Yeah. Yeah, we were watching it here at home.
And how much, how accurate is he getting? He's been very close, even recent, recent performances of scoring again. Did he have one in the New England one? Did he have one in game one that was really close at home?
Yeah, he did. He was close.
It was just like, oh my gosh, that was going in. I mean, we were all like, oh, yeah.
Don't be surprised if you see some shots from outside the 18. I think is kind of forgotten. And to your point, whether it's Jose or somebody else, if you have a shot from 20, 25 yards, take a rip. Let the ball skid again across the grass. Let the goalkeeper make a decision. Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? What's your predictions on the game? I know we're all hoping for a Union win, but how you truly?
We are. I don't make predictions. But my whole thing is pretty much everything you said. Like, if we can shut down Acosta, make sure that he, that's where Jose is going to be key. And if we just keep the pressure on in the attack, when we have the opportunities, like Jim always says, create chances, but also get those chances. And if we are to get a goal early, keep the gas on the pedal. Don't
let them come back like they did against us at home.
Yes, because we can't do that. And
I think forget that. They will not forget.
No, they won't. No, I don't think
Mhm.
they will either. So if we can do that, and as also Jim always says, be brave and take some smart chances. And that's to you, Damien. I love you, but don't be reckless at times. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but at the same time, I don't think he's just going reckless abandonment. Just sometimes don't get caught too far up out of position where
Mhm.
now you're gonna leave Jack on an island or Biza or somebody. But I think if we do that, play sound defensively, limit Acosta's chances, and keep the pedal on, anything's possible.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
just
could
We've
don't
seen
want
it
to.
before.
I don't want to see a penalty given at all like this. I don't think it would. I hope it doesn't happen for either team. I hope these goals come from open play, and there's nothing crazy that happens. And I
Right.
hope. Sorry, Jillian. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was gonna say, I mean, I could see it being like 1-1 and then going to extra time. And then us maybe having some heroics and winning it there.
Are,
I
are,
still have PTSD from last
are
November.
you calling another one of your heroics again? One of your Captain Heroic, Mr. Chris Donovan?
Chris Donovan, I called that, Kyle.
You did.
Okay, when Chris Donovan was coming in, I was like, yeah, watch Chris Donovan have like the game winner again.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
what.
the one he
That's
scored
why.
against Querétaro and the quarters,
Yes.
and then this one and this one. I got to be honest, was so hard to see because
Right.
we were calling it. You didn't know, and I'm very careful when I call these type of goals. Like Jack hits this free kick and it's rolling through everybody. And I'm like, when it first happened, Donovan's there, Sullivan's there. There's a bevy of New England players. So I'm like, well, I see Donovan celebrating all that, but could it have been an own goal? Could it have been Jack? And I kind of, took more of a conservative call at it, and then obviously added like after I saw like the replay, oh, okay, it was Donovan. But credit to Chris getting a piece of that because like I just mentioned, like there was a slew of players in that mix. And how he got a flick there was
Oh yeah.
amazing. Great ball by McGlynn as well on the
Mhm.
deck. And you're right. It could be another Donovan heroics, whether he starts or comes in off the bench.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that would be great to see.
No, so again, Dave, thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing. We had so much fun just talking Union as always. And so thank you for your time.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. This was one of my favorite conversations I think we've done on here. This was
It,
great.
it, it has been.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, and congrats on this venture for both of you. And have me sorry for my voice a little bit. I'm when I'm talking a
No,
lot, I have a lack of water in front of me, so I apologize for coughing a little bit on the pod today. But I had a lot of fun, and you two are very well versed with the union, and thank you for your partnership and what you do for the club and your support. Just from my seat as a broadcaster, I'm hopefully I'm that bridge from the players to the fans in some way. And it's one of the things I do miss being out there, like I said, is like the interaction with the fans as much like when I was on the set above Section 113. So
Mhm.
talking to you guys was great, and it rekindled a lot of my memories of that. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great and can't wait to hear your calls. I mean, we'll have to hear them after the fact, of course, and since we won't
Okay.
be there, but we look forward to hope you have some great ones to call for sure.
We'll get you
And
going on your way to school, when you're teaching those seventh and eighth graders, right?
yeah.
I'll get
Yeah.
you jumping
There you
out for your
go.
morning cup of coffee.
Yeah, I must have replayed the Brujo one in Orlando like a million times.
Oh
I
my
showed that to my students like the next day. I showed to my students. I was still hyped. I'm like, you guys got to watch this. This is the greatest like goal I've seen this year. That should have been goal of the year, in
God.
my very biased opinion. But yeah. So again, thank you. And if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
At Dave Leno TV on Twitter and Instagram are probably the best spots to find me. And I'm always available to have these conversations again. Thank you guys so much for having me. Obviously, if you see me at the stadium walking around towards walking from the Sons of Ben tailgate, or just coming in from where I park or at the stadium, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself, say hello, And love to talk Union and share our fandom for this great team that we're all a part of. So social media is great, but if you ever get a chance to say hello in person, please do that.
Absolutely. And so this is all for our episode of the One Team We Agree On.
Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. We love hearing from you. And if you have any ideas on future episodes or guests, please send them our way.
And until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Jillian.
And we'll see you at the game.